But first, support for the Albanese government has collapsed to its lowest level since the election amid the cost of living crisis and the Voice campaign. Today's Newspoll for The Australian shows Labor's primary vote has fallen 2 points to 36%. This result reflected in Peter Dutton's victory on the weekend, where the Fadden by-election saw a swing of around 2% to the LNP. Dutton claimed the swing was because of cost of living issues hurting Australian families.
The people of Fadden are like other people right across the country in marginal seats in outer metropolitan areas. People are hurting at the moment, and the Labor economic experiment is failing Australians. Labor's energy experiment is failing Australians. And as you moved around the booths, you get people who are raising important issues, their mortgages. Now, we know that through research, 40% of Australians under Labor last month couldn't afford to pay their mortgage or struggle with it. We know that they've lost faith in a Prime Minister who promised on 97 occasions that he would reduce their power bills by 275. So Australians are hurting, and there is a better way.
This swing in Fadden towards the coalition came despite Labor campaigning heavily in the seat on integrity and corruption issues. Labor was helped by the Royal Commission findings into robo-debt landing right before polling day and delivering a damning verdict against outgoing Fadden MP Stuart Robert.
They elected an LNP member last year and he didn't show up. And furthermore, he's been implicated in a deplorable scheme, the robo-debt scheme, and people aren't happy that that was the representative that they elected.
And all of these ministers and bureaucrats are going to have to live with this on their conscience for the rest of their lives.
For 4.5 years, Mr Dutton's political party, when they were in government, gaslighted the nation and its citizens.
I just caution the glee of the Prime Minister and of Bill Shorten at the moment. Bill Shorten, in Question Time, has sought to politicise this issue from day one. The Prime Minister's doing the same.
This isn't about politics, it's about people.
And all you got from Peter Dutton the other day was all the empathy of a rock.
There are always lessons from by-elections, and this one very clearly shows that families are worried about how to pay the bills as the cost of living soars. There's the perception that Labor is more preoccupied with talking about the Voice than caring about power bills this winter or the growing expense of food and housing. It's a point the Daily Mail makes today with this headline: support for Labor plunges as anger grows over Albanese's focus on the Voice instead of the cost of living crisis. Well, this is a catch-22 for the government. The Prime Minister wants the Voice campaign to win, and to achieve this outcome, the Yes campaign is spending big on ads to get its message across. But the more people hear about the Voice, the more they feel that Labor is out of touch. Today's Newspoll shows the referendum for the Voice has suffered a collapse in support. Just 41% of voters saying that they plan to vote yes, and 48% saying that they'll vote no. According to Newspoll, for the first time, female voters are apparently more likely than men to vote no. And pollsters say that this is because women are more highly attuned to cost of living pressures than men. It's often women who do the household shopping. Female voters had previously been overrepresented in the undecided category. But according to the polling, over the past 3 weeks, there's been a 10% fall in support for the Voice from women. And in the regions, The Australian reports, the no vote has blown out to 62%. The polls now clearly showing a downward trend in support for the Voice.
I'm not worried about the trend because I know polls will go up and down, Laura. The feeling that I get out in the community when I'm travelling between, I've been to Doomadgee and Mount Isa, to the Pilbara, and to the cities, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, just in the last 2 weeks. And, it's a great feeling that I get when people are informed.
The Australian's political editor Simon Benson says that analysis shows the referendum is in serious trouble and support for the proposition is gradually collapsing. He writes, the confusion over the detail, the function and the scope of the voice is now killing any goodwill many undecided voters may once have had. He writes that attitudes to the voice cannot be decoupled from the lived experience of most Australians facing cost of living pressures. And it's a point we've been making on this program. The two issues, the voice and cost of living, have become intrinsically linked. And the more the cost of living soars, the more support collapses for the voice. Benson asks in his column, at what point does the Prime Minister forcefully intervene to either rescue the proposition from disaster or ensure that an alternative can prevail? And by this he means potentially changing the model of the voice to limit it to Indigenous recognition in the Constitution only. But the Prime Minister shows no sign of changing the model, even though Labor MPs are growing nervous that the voice will fail. One of the most effective and powerful campaigners in modern-day politics is Tony Abbott. He's been a long-term advocate for solving Indigenous disadvantage, but he's a leading no campaigner. And he has now lashed corporates for virtue signalling on the voice. He's accused them of trying to buy the referendum. And he attacked woke billionaires for also trying to curry favour with the Labor government.
If money can buy a referendum, this referendum will be bought for the yes case with the weight of corporate money, with woke foundations and woke billionaires pouring in their virtue signalling.
Well, Anthony Albanese has now responded to Abbott's intervention, this just over an hour ago in an interview with Sky's Andrew Clennell.
Tony Abbott didn't last for 2 years as Prime Minister. They had just the relentless negativity, and I think that Australians want something better. Australians want a positive vision for the future. That's something that my government continues to put forward, whether it's on the economy, whether it be on defence, whether it be in education or health or social justice, or indeed something better when it comes to constitutional recognition.
The bottom line is, it seems that the more people hear Albanese and Linda Burney speak about the voice, the more they feel the government is out of touch. Families are worried about being able to afford their rising mortgages. They're worried about their ability to provide food, toys, clothes and school supplies for their children. It looks like the referendum on the voice, when we're facing likely another 2 rate hikes this year, has just come at the wrong time for Labor. Not to mention the government is still unable to provide crucial detail about how the voice members will be elected. And even Anthony Albanese, in this interview this afternoon with Andrew Clennell, has conceded that the Yes campaign needs to do better to win over the community in the lead up to the vote.
Most Australians, of course, will focus when the referendum is actually being held. It's a while to go yet. What we know is that there's been a considerable no campaign already that is out there just trying to sow doubt. The Yes campaign needs to be stronger in putting the case. The date will be between October and December. I don't plan to announce the date at Gama because that's just in a couple of weeks, and there needs to be at least 33 days' notice of the referendum campaign. But there certainly doesn't need to be that very long campaign. And once the date's announced, then it will be the campaign on in earnest.